Well, good morning, my friends, and welcome to episode number 1 of Mark's Musical Memories. It doesn't have to be memories. I guess it's MMM for short, or as I like to call it, Anyhow, I am going to talk about my record CD collection, all my music collection, really, and talk about albums I got at certain times that mean a lot to me and why. Talk about some CDs in the same vein. This can be stuff from my distant past, and this can be brand new albums and CDs that I've come across that I'm going to talk about. So that's what I'm going to do. It's just something to do during the pandemic here, and let's have a little fun with it. So, with that being said, let's start from the very beginning. And I'm not exactly sure of the year. I am going to place it somewhere around 1969. And it's when I received my very first record album. And I got it as a gift from my godfather's daughter. My godfather, Mose Miller, Wayne Miller, that's where my middle name Wayne comes from. His daughter Becky was about, I guess she was about 10 years older than I was. So, probably 1968 or so. She gave me a record album for Christmas. And it's the first record album I ever received, and I was extremely excited about it. So, what was it? It was this album right here. I still have it. The Beatles' second album. And of course, even at a young age, in the late 60s, I was a Beatles nut. And I treasured this album then. I treasure it now. Of course, it is. It has seen better days. I even wrote the little nickname I had up in the corner, Hershey. But love the Beatles' second album. Just love the sepia tone front cover, back cover with all the different Ed Sullivan photos from it. Played this thing to death. And I'll tell you, the track that really stood out for me, I mean, there's a lot of great tracks on it, from She Loves You to Roll Over Beethoven, Please Mr. Postman, great stuff. But the one that I loved the most was this one. It was Thank You Girl from the Beatles' second album. All right, well, the second album I'd like to talk about, my dad, he didn't have a huge album collection, but I think for the time of the 50s and the 60s when he was actually buying albums, he probably had a decent amount. I'd say his collection topped out around 150 albums or so, maybe a little bit more, and I've got them all in my collection. But when I was a kid, I would go through his albums and put them on the turntable and just listen to things. And this album I used to pull out every once in a while, listen to it, and just loved it. Then I find out all these years later that Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys was a big fan of this group, and that's kind of where he started to learn how to do the harmonies that he was so famous for in writing for the Beach Boys. And so this album is called Four Freshmen and Five Trumpets. So the group is the Four Freshmen, and they did a number of albums in this vein, like Four Freshmen and Five Trumpets, Five Trombones. They did all sorts of things like this, but this one came out of my parents' record collection. I'm not sure of the year on this one, but it's kind of cool. Of course, my dad up in the corner has James Hirschberger when he was an agent for Northwestern Mutual Life. Stamped the album. But the track that I used to play from this album quite a lot, it's called There Will Never Be Another You. And I just loved it as a little child in the 60s. So here's the Four Freshmen and Five Trumpets, There Will Never Be Another You. Goes like this.
There may be many other nights like this, and and I'll be standing here.
All right, and for my third and final selection of Mark's musical memories today, we're going to go from the 60s and jump all the way up to the present from just a few months ago. A Dudesky and Chip Baker film put together by Danny Garcia and Nick Reynolds. The documentary was called Rolling Stone: Life and Death of Brian Jones, a Danny Garcia film. It was a great documentary, and this is the soundtrack album from it. And not only was the documentary fantastic, not only is all the music on here great, but I'm very proud to say that as the owner of Pop Detective Records, there is a song on the album from Pop Detective Records and the great band The Deadbeat Poets. The track is called Riding the Dog, from the Deadbeat Poets. And of course you can find all the Deadbeat Poet albums online and all your normal spots. But yeah, here's Riding the Dog by Pop Detective artist The Deadbeat Poets from Rolling Stone: Life and Death of Brian Jones. So check out the documentary, pick up the soundtrack, and enjoy. It goes like this. Well, that's it for episode 1 of Mark's Musical Memories. We talked about my first album, the Beatles' second album, given to me by my, well, I call her kind of pseudo-cousin, but Becky Miller, who was the daughter of my godfather, who I called Uncle Mose. We checked out the Four Freshmen with Five Trumpets from my dad's album collection, something that I played as a kid. And then we jumped all the way forward to the present and checked out a track from the Deadbeat Poets on Pop Detective Records on the soundtrack of Rolling Stone: Life and Death of Brian Jones, a Danny Garcia film. So those are my 3 picks for today. Hopefully you follow, share this and tell your friends to follow, because there's going to be all kinds of interesting music coming your way, all of which I highly recommend that if you can find it and support artists that are still kicking it today that you might hear on this little feed. You go out and buy the music, you know, and keep music alive. But thanks for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.